Hi everybody, and welcome to the Trailer Park Profit Show. This is your host du jour, Daniel Patrick Gray from Littleton, Colorado. Broadcasting today from beautiful Crestone, Colorado. This is the Trailer Park Profit Show. Thanks a lot for being here. I really appreciate it. This is Sunday on Monday, where we look over the weekend's events a little bit. And, you know, basically we look over what's going on in politics. Kind of our big catch-all day. Actually, I guess Wednesday is too. Friday we try to focus a little more on local government. But Sunday we try to talk about what happened over the weekend on the Sunday talk shows. I got some good video from several of the talk shows. And, of course, we got a bunch of other stuff. Headlines. I guess we could go to Drudge real quick here, giving an idea what's trending right now. Not a lot. It says Washington has no moral authority after the Snowden leaks. Let's see, anything else that is really... Oh, Western states like Colorado moved to take over federal land. That's an interesting story. We should probably look into that. And something here about Canadians rally to legalize marijuana. There was a rally, I guess, on, of course, yesterday was 420. And 420 is a police signal that there is a marijuana bust or marijuana smoking in progress. That's where that 420 came from. Over the police radios they go, I got a 420 down at Washington Park, and that would be some sort of a marijuana offense. But at any rate, there was a celebration, because yesterday was 420 all across the United States. Big deal in Colorado. A lot of people went and celebrated down at Civic Square in Denver, Colorado. And then here's the story here. Weed, butter, hash, oil, chocolate. But at any rate, here's a story out of Canada, and it said several thousand people came out in Canada's biggest cities to call for legalization of marijuana, an early protest that happens internationally on April 20th. And so there's that little marijuana story. There's there's another story about marijuana in Colorado. They're talking about where, remember I talked about how this one guy blamed that he was high when he beat up his wife? That's in Colorado. Well, that's going through the judicial process. And now there's a bill before the Colorado State House that says that, wait, how's it work? It limits the amount of THC in baked or candied marijuana confections. And I guess if you have too much of a dose of marijuana in a confection, a candy or a mint or a piece of chocolate, you probably didn't know that. Some people don't realize that they're putting marijuana in chocolate. But now the state's trying to say that you can only have so much THC, which is the active ingredients of marijuana, in a particular portion of pot candy, which in my mind is absurd. But they're actually basing it on how are they basing it? They're gonna have to set like a bloodstream limit, and anything over that limit is against the law. This kind of intoxication legislation and law for marijuana is going to be kind of tricky, I think. I really do. And remember all of that information about marijuana users. And if you get pulled over and they smell pot and they do a pot test on you and you get a pot DUI, that information is going to be shared with Homeland Security and Obamacare, and eventually you won't be able to get yourself a license to buy a gun if you've had a pot offense. You just watch. Alright, anyways, back to recent headlines. Not surprised about Canada, but that reminds me, I actually want to go to another story because I really think it's important and related. Well, I'll just basically tell you the story. You can see it on my Facebook page, Daniel Gray, Trailer Park Prophet, but it was a story about who is against marijuana legalization, because there's more and more of these states and also countries like Canada that the people are saying, hey, Colorado, Washington State, it's free to buy marijuana there. We want to be free to buy marijuana ourselves. And so there's all these groups popping up, and they're going to their legislators and they're saying, hey, we want a marijuana bill passed in you know, fill in the blank state here in the USA. And you know, you can look at Washington, you can look at Colorado. We want to smoke pot free. We're adults, we're free. And you know who's fighting all that marijuana legalization legislation is the government employees. I know I've told you this before, but I'm going to tell you again because we have so many new listeners and sometimes you people forget, but there was a story on the internet recently, but I've been telling this all along. It's the government employees that don't want to see marijuana legalized because it means less cases for the police, less cases for the judicial system, less judicial employees, less counselors, less probation officers, less jailers, and all the people that make money off of working for the government. They see marijuana and the war on drugs for what it is. It's full employment for government employees, who, by the way, I want to remind you that a government employee makes almost twice as much as their counterpart in the private sector. You can check this out. There's this USA Today poll that said that the average private sector worker makes $46,000 a year, and the average government worker makes approximately $87,000 a year. So you can see there's a huge discrepancy, but these bureaucrats, these public servants, are going to fight tooth and nail against marijuana being legalized in the various states just because they want those goddamn government jobs. And that's exactly it. All the jailers and DAs, counselors, it's a crime, really. And I think the millennial generation is starting to wake up to the fact, hey, look, why isn't this legal? We want it. We're the people. We're giving our consent to be governed. And they're asking themselves that question. I know for years I would wonder, why in the hell hasn't someone in Congress, and maybe they have, introduced a bill to legalize marijuana, to do away with that 1946 bill making marijuana a classified drug? Why hasn't anybody repealed that bill in Congress? Then marijuana would be legal for all 50 states. And I can never get my mind around it, because the Democrats have controlled the presidency and both houses of Congress before, and they never did anything about it. You would think they would be the likely ones, to help out their fellow pot-smoking brethren. But no. And you would really think, or at least I would want to think, that the Republicans would be first to want to see marijuana legalized, because to me, a real Republican is somebody that thinks that the federal government should deliver the mail, defend our shores, and stay the hell out of our lives. And the Republicans have had control of the U.S. House and Senate and the White House, and they didn't do anything about it. But the reason they don't do anything about it is because of all the public employees involved, but also the people that don't like it are the people that sell alcohol, and the people that sell cotton and wood for paper, so there can't be hemp. I'm trying to think of the other groups that actually support the continuation of the status quo with marijuana. Oh, the drug companies. Supposedly the drug companies are entering in on some of these battles to legalize marijuana. Drug companies don't like marijuana, I guess, because they don't like the competition? I mean, what's going on there? And I read this other story here recently about the number of people that are dying because of prescription overdoses. I guess it's just epidemic. We've done a couple stories here about addiction to pharmaceuticals. And I guess the numbers now for deaths because of pharmaceuticals are off the charts. Alright, let's see here. What else we got here? What? Malaysian Airlines flight makes emergency landing. That must be another plane. Scientists discover first case of genital reversal. Female penis, male vagina. So they can make up a package for you. Whatever package you want, young man, young woman, we can fix up whatever it is you want. You want to add a dick to me, we can do that. You want to slit mate in me, we can do that too. Alright, well, that's the Drudge Report. We might check in later, see if there's any breaking news. Although I do kind of want to look into this story. Washington has no moral authority after what happened with Edward Snowden. He was the guy that stole all those NSA documents and turned them over to China and then turned the rest of them over to the Russians. Edward Snowden. He's now in Russia. Let's see, what do they say here? Oh, you know what? I can't find this story. I looked for this story before and it wouldn't go to it. I like the headline, but for some reason I can't make it to the story. Alright, let me get back to my show schedule. Oh. Yeah, let's see here. Moving on. Oh, they did I posted my show on the internet and they actually got it right this time. Oh my god, that's so cool. I love Blog Talk Radio. In fact, let me do a little plug for him. You know, there's Blog Talk Radio, there's other companies like this, but I really like Blog Talk Radio. Very professional. And you can start your own web show today. I mean, if you're interested in politics like the old prophet, liberal, conservative, or you like to talk about cars or music or religion, New Ager, God, I don't know, you like to give advice, you can go to Blog Talk on the internet and set up your own radio show. I mean, you'll be amazed how many people are out there just like me being citizen reporters, citizen entertainers, and it's a lot of fun, and it doesn't cost that very much. And Blog Talk has their Blog Talk University, and they help you, and it's just absolutely positively wonderful. And also, if you're like me, you can actually make a little money, and the bigger my show gets, the bigger audience I have, the more money I make. So there's that incentive to do an even better job every single show, which I try to do, of course. Alright, okay, here we go. This is probably the lead story here. This is really, actually, this is a big deal. This is a story that was in the New York Times Sunday edition. I believe they talked about this on the Sunday talk shows. But this is a big retreat, or a 180 from a very big-time liberal on President Obama and the support generally the lamestring media gives to the Obama administration. Gosh, I hope I can get this to go. Is he fighting? Oh, wait a minute. Is this what I want to do right here? Is it the Barack administration? The Barack Obama administration determined to thwart the attempt by other plaintiffs and myself to have the courts void a law that permits military, oh yeah, this is it, to arrest U.S. citizens, strip them of due process, and indefinitely detain them, has filed a detailed brief with the Supreme Court asking the justices to refuse to accept our petition to hear our appeal. We will respond within 10 days. Okay, this is a big deal. I got this right. And the writer is a guy named Chris Hedges. And this particular article was written on, it looks like March 14th, but this guy is a writer for the New York Times, and he's very concerned about a executive order that was written by the Obama administration, and also in a recent piece of legislation that was passed, the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, which basically allows for the federal government to suspend right of habeas corpus, which is to say that the government can go out and round people up and not have to tell them what they're being charged for, and allows for them to hold on to these detainees for a specified amount of time. Yeah, it was in the NDAA Act. Okay, let me go over this again because it's only 3 paragraphs, but it's jam-packed, and you need to understand that this was in the New York Times of all places this weekend. And this guy, Chris Hedges, is a big-time liberal, and he's very much concerned about the actions of Congress through the National Defense Authorization Act, and also the executive action done by President Barack Obama. And I've read these presidential declarations, or these presidential executive orders, and basically it allows the administration and or its surrogate government entities to declare how do you put it? Declare a way to do away with people's rights. In other words, they can declare that your civil rights have been suspended. That was the word I was looking for. And it can be done by, like I said, the president, or done by a government agency like Homeland Security. But it says here, the Barack administration, now get a load. Now listen, now that you know the context. The Barack Obama administration determined to thwart the attempt by other plaintiffs and myself to have the courts void a law that permits the military to arrest U.S. citizens, strip them of due process, and indefinitely detain them. Has filed a detailed brief with the Supreme Court asking the justices to refuse to accept our petition to hear our appeal. We will respond within 10 days. So, in other words, this is the President of the United States telling the Supreme Court not to take up this appeal because the President is satisfied with the lower court ruling that said that it's perfectly constitutional for the government and the military to arrest U.S. citizens, strip them of due process, and to indefinitely detain them. This really is tyranny. The administration's unstated goal appears to be to get the court to agree that the administration has the authority to use the military to detain U.S. citizens. Bruce Afram, one of the 2 attorneys handling the case, said, when I spoke with him Sunday, it appears to be asking the court to go against nearly 150 years of repeated decisions in which the court has refused to give the military such power, or rather the president. No court in U.S. history has ever recognized the right of the government to use the military to detain citizens. It's in the Constitution. It would be very easy for the government to state in the brief that citizens and permanent residents are not within the scope of this law. But once again, it will not do this. It says the opposite. It argues that the activities of the plaintiffs do not fall within the scope of the law, and it clearly is revising for itself the right to use the statute to detain U.S. citizens indefinitely. You know, this is kind of like the powers that President Lincoln had during the Civil War. He kind of went beyond the bounds of the Constitution to allow himself the ability and right to detain his detractors, several of which were members of the press. And or some elected officials. But that was during a time of war, which basically, when I was reading the executive order from Obama, you know, I mean, they would consider war or national catastrophe or civil unrest as criteria to initiate martial law or invoke this section of the law that's being questioned by this guy Chris Hedges and some of the others that have gotten this case to go to all the way to the Supreme Court. And it goes on to say the lawsuit is Hedges versus Obama. Hedges versus Obama. Challenges Section 1021B2 of the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA. It was signed into law the last day of 2001. And remember, that was in response to the 9/11 attack. No, I got that wrong. No, the National Defense Authorization Act, well, I mean, it was obviously after 9/11, but it was actually signed into law in 2011. It wasn't in reaction to that. I got that wrong. Ephraim and his fellow attorney Carl Meyer filed the lawsuit in January 2012. I was later joined by co-plaintiff Noam Chomsky. My God, he's another big liberal. I'm surprised. This is huge. Noam Chomsky is a guy that's a professor at Harvard or someplace back east, but he's well known as a hardcore liberal. And to see him as a co-plaintiff is amazing. Daniel Ellsberg of the Nixon heir, Watergate heir, interesting. Journalist Alexa O'Brien, doesn't ring a bell. Get a load of this. Tangerine Bullen. And this is interesting too, another co-plaintiff. Islamic parliamentarian Birgit Joan Dotsier and Occupy London activist Kwawi Wargala. I mean, talk about politics and strange bedfellows. But this is right before the Supreme Court as we speak right now, whether or not the government has a right to detain U.S. citizens without being cited for a charge. You know, just indefinitely detained, without right to counsel, without right to stand in front of a judge. And our president, Barack Hussein Obama, is arguing that the government has a right to detain American citizens without having to go before a judge. And I want to make sure I got this guy's name right. Yeah, I mean, in this little headline it says, by the time you were detained under this provision, all avenues of judicial appeal would be closed. If we do not win this case, all those deemed to be hostile or critical of the state will find themselves under threat. Yeah, and it's former New York Times reporter Chris Hedges, and he is the one who is suing the Obama administration over the policy allowing the military to arrest and jail citizens without due process. I mean, it's scary stuff. My fellow lovers of liberty, you know what I want to do? I want to, I don't want to do that. What I do want to do is get some background music, or maybe I can find a video. Let's see, do I want background music? Or do I want to, why don't we do this story right now, and then I can move on to something else. Okay, now, this story kind of blew my mind. I don't know where I found this story. The headline is, Obama has a manhood problem in the Middle East. Now, this was on Meet the Press yesterday, and this guy, David Brooks, again, another big-time liberal, big-time progressive socialist status, was on Meet the Press. That's NBC, no, what is that? Yeah, NBC's Sunday talk show program. and he's talking about Obama and how basically he doesn't have any balls with the Middle East. Well, we'll report, you decide. All right, take it away, Mr. Brooks.
China, Korea has some territorial issues. There are a lot of countries in Asia that have territorial issues with China. How is the United States? Where are they going to sit when this decides to raise its head and become an issue there? So that's why this does matter globally, sort of how the White House responds to this. And they have no interest right now in doing sectoral.
But basically, since we've had an assumption that borders are basically going to be borders.
Right.
And once that comes into question, if in Ukraine or in Crimea or anywhere else, then all over the world,
all bets are off.
All bets are off.
It is.
And let's face it, Obama, whether deservedly or not, does have I say it crudely, but a manhood problem in the Middle East. Is he tough enough to stand up to somebody like Assad, somebody like Putin? I think a lot of the rap is unfair, but certainly in the Middle East, there's an assumption he's not tough.
By the way, internally, this is sort of, they fear this. You know, it's not just Bob Corker saying it, okay, questioning whether the president is being alpha male. That's essentially what he's saying. He's not alpha dog enough. His rhetoric isn't tough enough. They agree with the policy decisions that they're making. Nobody's saying, but it is sort of the rhetoric. Internally, this is a question.
From Yalta to healthcare.
He said internally this is a question, which means that there are members of Obama's staff in the West Wing who think Obama is kind of a Skippy. You know, that's basically what they're saying there. And you know damn good and well, people like David Brooks and who was that other guy in the interview? Oh, Chuck Todd. They have access to a lot of high-level staff people in the Obama administration, and these are the kind of things they've been hearing over the last 6 years, is that Obamacare isn't much of a, or Obama isn't much of a man. He doesn't have much of a backbone. He's not much of a leader. Those are the kind of whispers that are coming out of the Obama White House. Now, I mean, these guys are talking about something else, of course, but obviously it's out there amongst the Washington elite to the point where they felt like today or yesterday they wanted to recognize it, that Obama is basically a stuffed shirt. It's just interesting, you know, watching all this stuff in terms of how the support for Obama seems to be decaying from every vantage point, from every walk of life across the U.S. We got some polls to do a little later, and it talks about this very same thing. Obama poll numbers are dropping like a rock. And we got the new presidential, what do they call it? The presidential acceptance poll, and it's down. So Obama's got some real problems, but I'm still trying to think, what does this mean that some of these big-time progressive socialist lamestream media are suggesting that Obama doesn't have any backbone? Man, that's interesting. So, I mean, I guess that what that means to you is Obama losing support even amongst his base, even amongst his most ardent supporters. And I think that's what that story actually demonstrates, is that, yes, some people in the lamestream media think Obama isn't much of a man, and that it's causing problems, not only domestically, but internationally and with his staff. So that you know what that means. See, the good side of that is you wait till Obama gets out of office, or later on in the last 2 years of his administration, when more and more staff members decide to retire as the administration winds down to the end. The books that the people are going to write about Obama are going to be world class. I promise you this. We have so much to look forward to. And not only that, just think about what the Obama daughters are going to be talking about. I mean, we've talked a little bit about the rumors out there that Michelle and Barack aren't getting along. So if that's true, then that means they've had some private White House arguments in front of the two girls, and the two girls are going to wind up taking sides if the Obamas decide to split. And you know what that is a recipe for is some great books like we've never seen before. Because if all this, I read, there's this one story I was reading today that said that Michelle Obama is out of control, that Barack Obama can't control her anymore, or he can't even get her to listen to his viewpoint, and that it's causing a lot of friction between the two staffs, and that the president is really worried that perhaps Michelle is a loose cannon. I mean, the White House drama is getting thicker and thicker and thicker, is you know, if you're going to want to believe these stories. And, you know, they come from credible sources, and they come from just opposed or opposite positions, or you know, what I mean is there's these kind of stories that there's a lot of discontentment in the White House coming from a lot of various sources. That's what I wanted to say. But could be interesting. Hang in there, my fellow lovers of liberty. Okay, by the way, you're listening to Daniel Gray. I am the Trailer Park Prophet, broadcasting live from beautiful downtown Crestone, Colorado. This is Sunday on Monday. I'm happy to be here. I really appreciate you all being here. It means a lot to me. The numbers are getting better, and whatever we're doing here on the Trailer Park Prophet Show, at least some of you are interested, or more and more of you are interested, and sure makes me feel really groovy about myself. All right, let's get on to the business at hand. I talked about the daily presidential tracking poll. Oh man, this better come up. Let me see, what am I doing here? At any rate, there were several polls out this weekend, 2 or 3 other polls, major polls that were out on how well the president is doing, and they don't look good at all. Well, let me see. God, something's going goofy here. Hang on a second. I want to get to this. Okay, the generic congressional ballot. Now, Republicans 41%, Democrats 40%. So that's pretty even. Republicans are ahead, but they have been way behind. And the generic congressional ballot question is if you were voting for Congress, would you vote for a Republican or a Democrat right now? And according to Rasmussen, Republican 41%, Democrat 40%. Another poll question, 45% view Obama health care law favorably. 45% view health care law favorably. Alright. Again, this is Rasmussen. 58% oppose U.S. involvement in the Ukraine. That's interesting. Alright, and this was just put out there 2 hours ago. Again, Rasmussen report poll, which is a scientific poll. Obama strongly approve. Okay, how many Americans strongly approve of Obama? 25%. Strongly disapprove, 41%. Index minus 16. Total approval, 49%. I don't know what that means. Let's see. Looks like we might have a Republican governor in Kansas. Although let's see here. Oh, interesting. 54% plan to go to church on Easter Sunday. That's interesting. I'm surprised it's that high. What they told us reviewing last week's key polls. Oh, get a load of this. 69% believe Jesus Christ rose from the dead. That's amazing. Let's see. 37% of voters fear the federal government. And those are the ones that fear it. I mean, I actually looked at this poll, and I think if you add up the people that are strongly concerned, it comes up to 63% that fear the government and are actually concerned. That tells you a lot. Let's see. Obama strongly approved, 22%. Strongly disapproved, 41%. Yet, then he has a total approval of 45%. Interesting. Oh, get a load of this. Oh, boy. 72% expect to pay more for groceries a year from now. Oh, yeah, baby. Everyone I talk to says that we have inflation in this country, and it's really bad at the grocery store. And if you remember, you very rarely see 72% of anyone in favor or saying anything. But here you got 72% expect to pay more for groceries a year from now. Let's see, 62% view U.S. economy as unfair to the middle class. That's interesting. 6% rate Congress's performance as good or excellent. That's scary. Okay, how about this? Again, this is Rasmussen Reports, recent poll out on April 17th. 50% still confident in stability of banking system. Oh my God, people are so naive. And Harriet Clifton writes, wishful thinking. Oh, here's the right direction, wrong direction. 31% say U.S. headed in right direction, but I want to know how many think we're headed in the wrong direction. Let's see, maybe somebody will tell me here. At any rate, that's not very good. 31% say U.S. heading in right direction. Usually on these right direction, wrong direction polls, it's more in the middle, but 31% saying we're in the right direction. I wish I could get the internals and find out how many think we're going in the wrong direction, but I'm sure it's over 50%. Let's see. Here we go. 91% of Democrats see Hillary as the likely 2016 nominee for president. That's, wow, 91%. That's huge. Okay, I think we already did that one. 65% of internet users are still confident in banking, business online. That's a good thing. 84% consider the level of prom spending too high. That's kind of weird. 54% think increased reliance on internet makes U.S. economy more vulnerable. These are pretty interesting questions they asked. I'll get a load of this. 88% plan to file income taxes by today. 53% question fairness of tax system. Interesting. Just 16% think most in Congress pay their own taxes. Generic congressional ballot. Okay, we already did that. Oh, this is another generic congressional ballot. They say Democrats 40, Republicans 38. They probably asked the same question in a different way. Interesting. This is a big story. This has got people talking. Rasmussen also did a poll. There's a big governor's race up in Illinois, and we've reported on Illinois being bankrupt. In fact, Detroit, no, that's Michigan, about how there's a lot of unfunded liabilities in Chicago. And so there's a big governor's race going on in Illinois. And this is what the Rasmussen poll shows, that for the election of 2014 for Illinois governor, Rayner, a Republican, has 43% to the Democrat Quinn 40%. So a 3% margin in one of the more democratically controlled states in the union. Man, if the Republican wins the governor's seat in Illinois, that is in your face. If there's not voter fraud. Let's see here. 12% expect quicker fixes in healthcare law with Sebelius gone. That's interesting. We announced the Director of Health and Human Services, Kathy Sebelius, resigned. She was also the head of Obamacare. Oh. It says here, Rasmussen reports 82% rate the health care they receive as good or excellent. Well, I mean, that's good news. Alright, I think we've done enough of these. Oh, my computer now is not responding. Alright, hang on everybody. We're going to be just fine here. Alright, I guess I can give you an ID. This is Daniel Gray. I am the Trailer Park Prophet. And we're broadcasting live from beautiful downtown Crestone, Colorado on Blog Talk Radio. This is Daniel Gray. I am the Trailer Park Prophet. Hope your day's going well. Did you have a nice Easter? Mine was okay. You know, any day off is great. Went for a long walk with the Barker and did some plumbing. The tourists are starting to show up again, so nice to see the businesses with cars in front of them. And let's see here, got to get back to my script and then we'll get on with the show. Oh God, this is kind of, I know I shouldn't do this, but I don't know why. I find the birth certificate issue with Obama kind of interesting. And here recently, the head of the Hawaiian Vital Records recently had a nefarious, unexplained death. She was the only one that died in a plane wreck off of Hawaii, and she was the director of health, and her name is Loretta Fuddy. And this article comes from the Birther Report, and supposedly it reveals that Hawaii keeps autopsy report top secret evidence of the Fuddy death. And so they're insinuating that this woman, who basically was the one that said, hey, you know, nothing to see here in Hawaii. Obama's birth certificate is as clean as a freshly born sheep's butt or whatever. That woman, her name again is Loretta Fuddy, she dies, and she's the only one that really can say whether or not Obama's birth certificate is real, because she's the last one to actually see it. And then she dies sort of mysteriously in a plane crash where she's the only person that dies. But at any rate, you can go and check it out on birtherreport.com. And again, I think this is important to point out. In 2008, Sarah Palin predicted that if Barack Obama was elected president, Russia would invade Ukraine. Obama and the Democrats laughed, which they did. They really did. They laughed like crazy at Sarah Palin for saying that. And by the way, Sarah Palin never said that she could see Russia from her home in Alaska. That was actually something that was on Saturday Night Live, done by, her name is escaping me, the lady that did the Sarah Palin imitation. At any rate, the actor on Saturday Night Live imitating Sarah Palin said that she could see Russia from her backyard. And most people, if you ask them, and you should just go try and do this. I've done this. It's kind of interesting. Ask them, did you know that Sarah Palin said that she could see Russia from her back porch? I bet you 75% of people out there said, yeah, Sarah Palin said that, when in fact it was one of those actresses on Saturday Night Live. Just kind of interesting how misinformation and propaganda can get out there, and it gets in people's minds. And it stains their opinions of people unfairly. At any rate, in 2008, Sarah Palin predicted that if Barack Obama was elected president, Russia would invade the Ukraine. Obama and the Democrats laughed. In 2012, when Mitt Romney warned of a geopolitical threat posed by Russia, Obama called it Cold War thinking. And the Democrats laughed. And actually, Obama mocked Mitt Romney a lot harder on that. You know, he talked about Mitt Romney as if he was a caveman that needed to drag his knuckles into the 21st century. I mean, that's how childlike Obama got. And now that the Russians have 150,000 troops poised to invade the Ukraine, the laughingstock of the world is Barack Obama, which, by the way, we don't have time to do this story, but I read this story about how European leaders now are really worried about what's going on in the Ukraine. Oh, and another story, I didn't have it on the prep show here, but I'm going to make mention of it. And I don't know if it's true. I wasn't able to find another source, but the story I read seemed very, very real, in that supposedly the U.S. is sending additional troops to Poland for some reason, and the reason might very well be because of rumors around Europe that Russia may be looking to invade, or Germany might be looking to invade Poland. So we may be sending troops to Poland. And if that's true, we need to know why that is. And then I read another article about how NATO leaders are worried about Russia as well, and that they're talking about increasing their funding to NATO so that they can beef up the amount of troops and armament they have available in case Russia goes on the march. A lot of talk out there. Okay, now this is an interesting video. We're going to play this. We've actually played this before. This is Mrs. Campbell, and she was one of the representatives of one of the companies, the computer companies, the 4 computer companies that put together the Obamacare website, which, by the way, there's 4, I'm going to remind you of this, 4 companies that put together the Obamacare website. 3 of those companies were affiliated with United Healthcare, which is the big 800-pound healthcare agency that was in on writing Obamacare. So they were also got over $1 billion to write this program for the Obamacare website that didn't work. Now, this is one of the women who is the spokesperson for one of those 4 companies that actually wrote the Obamacare website. And get a load of this. Oh, this is testimony before Congress. And I told you her name already, I think, didn't I? Alright, lady, welcome to the Trailer Park Prophet Show. Again, this... Okay, the guy speaking... Okay, this is the House Oversight Committee on Health and Human Services, and this is mainly Senator Barton from Texas, and he's the one who is interviewing this woman. You'll hear her voice here shortly. I mentioned her name earlier, who is one of the executive spokesperson for one of the corporations that actually put together Obamacare. All right, Congressman Barton, take it away.
Well, I'm going to read it again. This is the part of the sign-up that is hidden. The applicant does not see this, but it is in the source code. And what that blue highlighted area that's constructed
All right, and what Congressman Barton is talking about is that in the source code. Here we go.
No reasonable expectation of privacy regarding any communication or data transmitted or stored on this information system. And Ms. Campbell and Mr. Flatter, y'all both said that y'all are HIPAA compliant. How in the world can this be HIPAA compliant? If HIPAA is designed to protect the patient's privacy, and this explicitly says in order to continue, you have to accept this condition that you have no privacy or no reasonable expectation of privacy.
So that would be a decision made by CMS.
So you're not, this is news to you? I mean, you're the main prime contractor. You've never seen this before?
So that's not, we are the prime, one of the prime contractors, yes.
Have you seen this before? Are you aware this is in the source code?
This requirement is...
Are you aware this is in the source code, yes or no?
Yes.
We're aware, okay? Do you think that's HIPAA compliant? How can that be? You know it's not HIPAA compliant. Admit it. You're under oath.
Sir, that is CMS's decision to make what...
I asked you, I thought you just told me the classroom that it was HIPAA compliant. You know that's not HIPAA compliant. You admit that you knew it was in there. It may be your decision to hide it, but you're the company, not you personally, but your company together. We're telling every American person, including all my friends on the Democrat side, and they're huge privacy advocates. Diane Jihad is the co-chairman of the Privacy Caucus. If you're telling every American, if you sign up for this or you attempt to, you have no reasonable expectation of privacy. That is a direct contradiction to HIPAA, and you know it. Yes or no?
Mrs. Campbell.
Once again, CMS has us comply with federal rules and regulations that they've established under our contract. And that is a CMS cost, that is not a contractor cost.
To break the law. You're now saying that CMS made a decision to break the law. Do you agree with that decision?
Sir, I cannot speculate on CMS.
Well, let me ask Mr. Flatter.
This is the first time I've seen him becoming familiar with that source code.
Okay, so you weren't aware of it.
I was not aware.
Okay. Why? Let me go back to Ms. Campbell. She's at least admitted she knew about it. Who made this decision to hide this or to put it in the source code in the first place?
I can't give you that answer.
All right, who do you report to?
Answer to that question.
Was it some junior underling at CMS? Was it the director of CMS? Was it, I mean, who generically made decisions at the policy level that you're trying to interface with? Give me that person.
There are many decisions made under this program over this last two and a half years.
So, is this another example of where things can go into a cloud? I mean, all you are the contractor is good.
All right, this is kind of painful. And see, the development of the Obamacare website had more to do with paying off political favors, past and present, by having 4 different contractors put together the same website than it did about being efficient and providing the best possible healthcare website for the people. And what this woman, I remember watching this testimony. This was last year. And I watched the whole testimony, and the beauty of having 4 contractors to do one big project that turns out to be a disaster, which some people are saying that that's what the Obama administration wanted, was deniability. And this woman will, later on in the hearing, as Congressman Burton continues to press her, she basically says what I just explained to you. She said, well, look, my computer program company only dealt with the front end or the middle or this aspect or that aspect, and these other corporations, they dealt with that aspect that you're talking about now, but they all had reasonable deniability. When you have 4 contractors putting together the same website, you have deniability if things end up screwed up, and it seems like it was done like that by design. And the price was over $1 billion to put together the Obamacare website, and it's going to cost another $1 billion to try and fix it. And by all accounts, it would have only taken like $5 to $10 million for the average programmer to put together a website that would have worked. I mean, look at eBay. Look at some of these websites out there that handle billions of dollars and do it flawlessly and don't lose your personal information. And that's basically what they're saying here. In case you don't know, the open source code is that hackers can get into Obamacare and find out personal information from people, like their social security number and their health record. I mean, this is a perfect opportunity to be able to get some information, bad information on somebody, and use it against them, blackmail them. You know, like as an example, if you don't like somebody or you know they're going for the same job, if you're able to hack into the Obamacare computers and you're able to, you know, get in the door and work your way around, maybe get into the IRS or get into their records and find out maybe they had a substance abuse at one time, or maybe they had to go to a counselor. That's the other thing too. Remember, mental health care services now under Obamacare are free, and so is counseling. So Obama, the government's going to have records of all of that activity. And if somebody can find out that kind of information, they can use it in a campaign, they can use it in competition for a job. Or if somebody is you know, like me on the other side with a bit of a voice, then they can use it against, you know, someone like me. I mean, my God, it's never ending. I've seen it. Information like this used in Crestone and Littleton. I've seen it used in Crestone. They contacted Littleton government and wanted to know all the dirt on me because I gave a hard time to the Littleton government, just like I've given a hard time to the Crestone government, because they deserve it. But these governments are run in large part like Littleton, like Gunnison, like Crested Butte, like Littleton. They're run by generally carpetbaggers. They're not from Colorado, and they're progressive socialist status, and they're absolutely positively vicious human beings. And they'll do anything to destroy a person economically. And what they do is they cause the community to ostracize individuals that go against what I like to call the power clique. And they're damaging to their opposition economically, sociologically, emotionally. Okay, this is kind of interesting. We might, maybe not. Oh, we should turn back on the music. It relaxes me. Oh, what's this story? I mean, I see stories all the time about an impending collapse of the stock market. Many say there's a bubble. It can't go on forever, can it? Can the stock market continue to be at this level? I don't think so. 15,000? That's a lot. I mean, it's all funny money. Amazing. Oh, if you want to call into the program, you can do so. Dial 646-716-8506 if you want to talk to the Trailer Park Prophet. 646-716-8506. And I'm sorry if I don't see you. I gotta keep coming back. I wish this thing could ring. You know? What's this button? I wish it would ring. Why can't they make the phone ring? And then I could go back to my studio. See, I mean my studio, I mean my Blog Talk Radio screen. I have a place that's called my studio, and I can play different things, and you know, that's where I get my place guest in screening room. Oh, this is cool too. If I had a lot of callers, I could actually put them in a screening room and then go to a recorded commercial and talk to the guest, you know, see if I really want to use them or not. God, that's cool. I'm telling you, man, these Blog Talk people got it together. And if you know anybody, family members, somebody at work, and they're really, or, you know, they may have mentioned to you one time that they'd like to be have a talk radio show, tell them about the Blog Talk Radio. I'm telling you, it's a hoot. And you can actually have a show and it doesn't cost you nothing. How about that? Okay, let's see if I can get this story to post. Alright, I'm probably behind. I've been kind of talkative today. Alright. Okay. Hang on, I'm having a technical difficulty. My background just fell down. Oh my God, citizen journalism. You gotta love it. You gotta love it because, you know, the politicians sure as hell hate it. They hate a citizen journalist. Okay, this story from freedompost.com. Justice Scalia has a quote here. He's a Supreme Court justice. Says if taxes get too high, Americans should revolt. Holy mackerel. I mean, that's coming from a Supreme Court justice telling people that if taxes get too high, you ought to revolt. And he was speaking to students at the University of Tennessee College of Law annual Rose Lecture. Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia said the Americans should revolt if income taxes become too high. I don't know, I didn't read the article. But, I mean, holy mackerel, when somebody like a Supreme Court justice is out there telling people, the American people, that they have justification to revolt over taxes, I mean, whoa, wow, talk about a green light. And you can bet the Obama administration and the progressive socialist status out there are really pissed about this. We'll see some feedback on this. Oh, Harry Reid doubles down on claims Bundy doesn't pay taxes. Remember, Bundy's the rancher in Nevada who had the showdown with the FBI and I forget the other government agency right now. But anyway, Senator Harry Reid from Nevada, remember we reported on Friday, was calling the supporters of the Bundy family domestic terrorists. And I actually listened to a show that Harry Reid was on, and I heard the words for myself. He basically called the supporters of the Bundys domestic terrorists, and now he's doubling down on it. In fact, I think this is actually the third time that Senator Reid has come out and re-supported his claim that the supporters of the Bundys in Nevada were domestic terrorists. I mean, the fact that he keeps doubling down shows you that his poll numbers suggest that his internal poll numbers suggest that he can get away with saying that and be able to maintenance his base, his Democratic base in Nevada. Scary stuff. But really what that tells you is just how pissed Harry Reid and the rest of the federal government is about what happened in Nevada with the Bundy Ranch. BLM, that's what I was trying to think of. The Bundys were at odds with BLM. And I actually heard this interview with Reid, and he was downright nasty describing the Bundy situation. He was calling them deadbeats for not paying their taxes or grazing fees, which, you know, we've talked about here that could be a sign that maybe the Bundys aren't that clean. And, oh yeah, I've been meaning to tell you, Glenn Beck, he's been telling people to back off this Bundy story. And he was, I haven't heard him, I just read the headlines, but he may see some of the things that I saw, that maybe this deal of the Bundys not paying their grazing fees for their cattle, that this kind of makes them a stained example and not a good place to show a lot of support. And he very much denounced the people that were down in Nevada supporting the Bundys. It's really curious, you know. Again, politics makes strange bedfellows. So I just want to say, you know, remember Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks was selected to be the person in the test court case to use in Alabama as why segregation should be illegal on public busing, public transportation. So remember, that's something to think about, particularly for these Tea Party people that are so quick to come to the defense. Because I mean, I have a feeling we're going to have a showdown, and I hope our side, the people that believe in liberty and the Constitution, are patient to find the right test case. Oh, here's that guy David Brooks. Remember I was talking about, he said that Obama has a manhood problem. Yesterday on NBC, I might have the video here. We'll see if we can hear it. I'll mute the music. Again, here's that guy David Brooks, big time liberal, writes for the New York Times, or did write for the New York Times. Or wait, maybe this is another guy. David Brooks is another guy. Alright, I don't think it's going to post. Alright, I'm going to have to kill it. But, you know, basically you have the idea that we're having more and more progressive socialist statist so-called journalists saying that Obama doesn't have much in the way of cojones internationally, nationally, or in his own staff. My God, people are throwing Obama under the bus. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. We might have it. David Brooks.
Does matter globally, sort of how the White House responds to this, and they have no interest right now in circles.
Basically, since Yalta, we've had an assumption that borders are basically going to be borders, right? And once that comes into question, if in Ukraine or in Crimea or anywhere else, then all over the world, all bets are off. And let's face it, Obama, whether deservedly or not, does have a, I'll say it crudely, but a manhood problem in the Middle East. Is he tough enough to stand up to somebody like Assad, somebody like Putin? I think a lot of the rap is unfair, but certainly in the Middle East, there's an assumption he's not tough.
By the way, internally, this is sort of, they fear this. You know, it's not just Bob Corker saying it, okay, questioning whether the president is...
That's Chuck Todd.
That's essentially what he's saying. He's not alpha dog enough. He's not, his rhetoric isn't tough enough.
Yesterday.
The policy decisions that they're making, nobody's saying, but it is sort of the rhetoric. Internally, this is a question.
Internally, that's what I was talking about. Okay, let's go through this again. I'm telling you what, this is a bombshell. And this was yesterday on Meet the Press Sunday morning. And again, it's New York Times columnist David Brooks who's saying that Obama has a manhood problem. And then the other guy's Chuck Todd, who is the commentary. All right, here we go.
With China, Korea has some territorial issues. There are a lot of countries in Asia that have territorial issues with China. How is the United States? Where are they going to sit when this decides to raise its head and become an issue there? So that's why this does matter globally, sort of how the White House responds to this. And they have no interest right now in doing
Well, basically, since we've had an assumption that borders are basically going to be borders.
Right.
And once that comes into question, if in Ukraine or in Crimea or anywhere else, then all over the world,
all bets are off.
All bets are off.
It is.
And let's face it,
That's
Obama,
true.
whether deservedly or not, does have I say it crudely, but a manhood problem in the Middle East. Is he tough enough to stand up to somebody like Assad, somebody like Putin? I think a lot of the rap is unfair, but certainly in the Middle East, there's an assumption he's not tough.
By the way, internally, this is sort of, they fear this. You know, it's not just Bob Corker saying it, okay, questioning whether the president is being alpha male. That's essentially what he's saying. He's not alpha dog enough. His rhetoric isn't tough enough. They agree with the policy decisions that they're making. Nobody's saying, but it is sort of the rhetoric. Internally, this is a question.
From Yalta to healthcare.
From Yalta to healthcare. And he was talking about internally. So that means there's problems everywhere in the Obama administration. Because these people are in the know. They know what's going on. And basically they just gave us insight with this interview into the Obama administration domestically and internationally. And you notice they were reluctant to admit what I was saying earlier, that there's big problems in Europe and that we might be beefing up Poland, that NATO's concerned about Russia. I mean, there's a lot of worry about Barack Obama's backbone. And believe me, the reporters know that. And they, that's what he said, that's why that David Brooks said, unfairly or fairly. I mean, he's trying to quantify the overwhelming evidence that Obama is seen as a stuffed shirt in Europe. And then, to add himself credibility, he says, well, everybody knows in the Middle East that Obama is lacking manhood. I mean, oh my God. He had to throw Obama under the bus so he could pull him back from underneath the bus to throw him back underneath the bus. I mean, my God, what a tepid support or analysts of our president's backbone in the Middle East and in Europe. And then they dump on him even more. He said to the end, talking about Obamacare, meaning he doesn't have any manhood there either. I mean, oh my God, unbelievable. And then they go on to say that there's rumblings in the West Wing of the Obama administration. I mean, they all were comfortable with the idea that there was a lot of mention from the Obama administration, that high staff people, that Obama has a difficult time making a decision. Just like we found out here that the Keystone Pipeline has been delayed. Obama isn't ready to make a decision on that. He's waffling on that. But President Obama is waffling all over Washington, all over his staff, and all over the world. Remember, Barack Obama, the state senator, voted present, not there, something like 130 times. Voting present, not there, is not why you elect people to public office. But if you're like Barack Hussein Obama, who sees the Illinois State Senate as a stepping stone, then you don't want to commit to anything. You vote present, not voting. Unbelievable. And now you can see where he is right now. I mean, it could be that he voted present, not voting, because he couldn't make up his mind, or he couldn't take any kind of negative feelings towards people who were affected by his vote either way. I don't know. I mean, I kind of think that's a component part of Barack Obama's psychology, is that he doesn't know how to make decisions comfortably because he doesn't have a moral compass, and in part because he never had a father or mother involved in his life. He never knew what it was like or never experienced being in situations that children are in by watching their parents deal with society. I mean, he got to watch his grandparents, but I don't think that's the same thing. But at any rate, I think Barack Obama is unable to make critical decisions. And it's I don't know why, but it's definitely psychological, and I think it has to do with not having a good relationship with his father. I think you learn those kind of things from being in a household with a strong parent. I'm not saying that a single mother couldn't be strong and virtuous and a good educator for their young son. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that wasn't the case for Barack Hussein Obama. Okay, let's see if I can get this story to post. I want to mention I'm Daniel Gray, Trailer Park Prophet, broadcasting live from beautiful downtown sunny Crestone, Colorado on Blog Talk Radio. This is Sunday on Monday. Hope you're doing well. Oh, by the way, got to do a little plug. If you know somebody who is thinking about traveling abroad and might want to meet some nice local person, you can get on the internet, type in Trailer Park Prophet Love Connection, and you can look at over 20,000 women from all over the world that the Trailer Park Prophet Love Connection staff has interviewed and screened for criminality. And if you plan on going to anywhere in South America, oh my God, China, Japan, Philippines, Russia, all of Europe, go to the Trailer Park Prophet Love Connection and you can see pictures and profiles of over 20,000 women. So if you or somebody you know needs a little shake-up in their life, maybe they need some romance, tell them about the Trailer Park Prophet Love Connection. You may be their new best friend forever. Alright. Story here from the Tea Party. What else? Some Tea Party. Anyways, there's other stories like this. It says that there's trouble for the Democratic Party. More Senate seats, that's U.S. Senate seats, are at risk, according to this article. And it says that Democrats are finding that their path to keeping control of the U.S. Senate this year is getting bumpier. And I read this article earlier, and they identified 4 different solid blue Democratic Senate seats that are now in a condition of toss-up. And I can't remember the actual states. They were back east. Let's see, where were they? They were Maryland. Anyways, 4 very blue states that are now held by Democrats in the U.S. Senate are now toss-up states. And I can't get this article to post. But at any rate, that's... Alright, here we go. Moving on. I may be having trouble here. I don't know if I can get my next story to roll up. So be patient. Be kind. I love that Obama has a manhood problem. Alright, yeah, I want to do some more recent stories. Oh, maybe I need to refresh. Alright, you gotta be patient. This is citizen journalism. And not at its finest, mind you. Alright, I did the refresh. Let me get down to my story. I might have to go off of my written notes. which I'm more than willing to do. Oh, what if where's the background music? Oh, I turned it off. Well, at least we can listen to background music. Yay! Okay, let's see if I can get this to post. Okay, Control 5. Control 5! Control 5! Control 5! Oh, lordy. Who has more fun than humans? Yeah, I have these stories all here on my Facebook page. And if you ever want to go and see what I'm going to talk about, you can literally just go to my Facebook page, and most of the stories are going to be there. Oh, this is kind of interesting. Remember Dick Morris? Dick Morris, the political pundit who said in the 2012 election cycle that Mitt Romney was going to win the presidency by a landslide. And part of the reason why maybe the 4 million registered Republicans that stayed home on the 2012 election could have, stayed home because of Dick Morris saying that Romney had the election hands down. I don't know, man. But anyway, Dick Morris has been lying low since the 2012 election. And now all of a sudden he's reappeared, and he's a political pundit. He's on Fox. He has his dickmorris.com, but he was roundly shunned and ostracized by the media. And me too. I was pissed. I really thought Mitt Romney was going to win that 2012 election, and part of it, I guess, was having confidence in Dick Morris. So I was glad Fox got rid of him. I was pissed. And, and Dick Morris does his own polling. He has his own company to do that, and to be that wrong, I mean, I'm still pissed now that I think about it. But anyway, here's his comeback, and he says here that, this is Dick Morris says, there's proof that over 1 million people voted twice in 2012. The pursuit of voter fraud is running theme among Republicans, and the latest numbers out of North Carolina made by the conservative website Pop with alarming headlines, "Oh my, audit finds proof that over 1 million people voted twice." So that's 2 million people. Now, I wonder if I can get this to post. Well, just I'm telling you, I think this could be a credible story. There's 3 or so other, what I would say are credible stories about voter fraud floating around my Facebook world right now. And I'm telling you, I think voter fraud is rampant in this country. I really do, and I think a lot of it's actually done inside by the elected officials, like the county clerk. I have a feeling that there's rampant voter fraud. And a lot of these small places like Gunnison or communities below 20,000 people, they use the same Rybolt machine. It's just a vote counting machine. And it's a computer, I guess, and it can be easily co-opted to pretty much report whatever the hell the county clerk wants it to report. Don't get me started. Oh, and then Dick Morris comes out, and this is from teaparty.org. I mean, talk about planning his comeback. And here he's saying that Democrats are conspiring to rig the electoral college law passed in 9 states so far. And the electoral colleges, the various states have, I can't remember how many votes, just 2 or, no, they have more than 2. They have, oh my God, I forget how those are apportioned. But at any rate, the electoral, we don't have a direct democracy. We have a constitutional republic that allows for the use of the electoral college, which means that there's the popular vote, and then depending on that and the way delegates are elected, then they go to the electoral college and then generally vote the will of the people. But because of apportionment and minimums that are allowed to various states, there can be a legal instance, and it has happened several times, like Bush versus Gore, where the winner of the presidential election did not receive a majority of the popular vote, but did receive a majority of the electoral vote. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and one reason is in case it turned out between the actual election and the inaugural that the president may have died, or found out that the president was a traitor to our country, that he wouldn't or she wouldn't be elected, and then the electoral college could step in and elect somebody who wasn't treasonous, you know, and that's one of the main reasons why it was there. And because and mainly, I mean, not to go too deeply in this, but because in the 17th century, because there wasn't a lot of fast communication between all the colonies, I mean, there could arise a situation where it was revealed that the president-elect was, say, psychotic, crazy, or again like that, a treasonous person. So then, you know, you rely on the electoral college. But there's other reasons too. But well, I should tell you the other main reason too. There's electoral college, and that is so that the high population states don't dominate the elections. You know, and that's the notion that really does bear out to be true. Like an example of the East in California, where there's high concentrations of people and high concentrations of government and government unions, that the likelihood that their communities are going to vote Democrat or vote for more government is very real. And so to compensate for that, you have as one protection, the electoral college. All right, enough of that. Jesus Christ. But anyway, Dick Morris is saying that the Democrats have a plan now, stealthy, making its way through the state legislatures with the intent of abolishing speed, would junk the electoral college and award the presidency to the winner on popular vote. But in order for the see, this is, I don't know, this could be just trying to get his name back in the headlines, because it would be almost impossible to get 50% plus one of the states, 51 of the states, to actually make a constitutional amendment. I don't see it happening. And they would need, I think, at least 26 states to decide to do away with the electoral college, and they already have 9. I don't know. I don't think so. But and so Morris is thinking they're going to have that by the 2014 election. I think Dick Morris is, you know, I think Dick Morris is under the effect of chemtrails. What do you guys think about chemtrails? And people have been talking about this for, I don't know, 30 years now, that you see those chemtrails up there in the sky from the jet airplanes. And there's always been that suggestion that the planes are putting something into the air, and of course it's suspected that the stuff they're putting in there is something to subdue the masses. And can you imagine what a conspiracy that would be? Because you would have to have collusion with the airlines, collusion with the government, collusion with the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, to allow for installation of these aerosol tanks, and I guess they would just shoot out the back of the jet, or they'd shoot through the jet engine. I mean, is that how you would add the chemicals to the chemtrail? But at any rate, you can see this would be not only heavy, but it'd be elaborate, and if it's elaborate, then it could be dangerous, and you'd have to have the technicians coming on and filling up these tanks to put this chemtrail material out there on every single jet that's out flying in the world, or at least in the U.S. So that means thousands and thousands of jets would have to be retrofitted with these chemtrail chemical tank emitters. I mean, and here, and I've seen this before, it says that Bill Gates, you know, the guy that started Microsoft, admits to chemtrails. So this could be a bogus story, but it's funny. Geoengineers are finally coming out of the chemtrail closet, as reports are now emerging about the deliberate plans in the works to dump untold tons of sulfate chemicals into the atmosphere for the purported purpose of fighting so-called global warming. Well, now we have a reason. And they're saying that this is something new. Did you catch that? The UK, that's Britain, Guardian, and others are reporting that a multi-million-dollar research fund, which just so happens to have been started and funded by Microsoft founder and vaccine enthusiast Bill Gates, is being used to fund the project. A large balloon hovering at 80,000 feet over Fort Sumner, New Mexico, will release the sulfates into the atmosphere within the next year. The stated purpose of this massive release of toxic sulfate particles is that doing so will allegedly reflect sunlight back into the atmosphere and thus cool the planet, but many environmental groups and advocates of common sense are decrying the idea as dangerous, but one that could result in permanent damage to the ecosystem all across the globe. Quote, impacts include the potential for further damage to the ozone layer and disruption of rainfall, particularly in tropical and subtropical regions, potentially threatening the food supplies of billions of people. You know, this sounds so crazy. I don't know what to say. But it, you know, obviously, it says it comes from the Guardian. But nothing in it, in the preliminary part of the article, to suggest that there was any kind of use of chemtrails in planes. They were just talking about dumping it out of air balloon. But can you imagine, though? Wouldn't that be just totally crazy? Like, I don't believe the whole chemtrail thing, but coming out of the jets. But what if they were thinking about using some kind of a chemical like sulfate particles, and they really have this idea, you know, that you could reflect the sun back, and they do something on a grandiose scale and wind up really destroying our environment just because they think they're, I don't know. Okay, this article's absolutely hilarious, and this is from the Latin Times, but I've seen this several places, and I think this little story is going to catch fire. And this is from Washington. It says that biofuels made from the leftovers of harvested corn plants are worse than gasoline for global warming in the short term. A study shows challenging the Obama administration's conclusions that they are much cleaner oil alternative will help combat climate change. This is a freaking kick in Obama administration's ass. Oh my God, because they came out in this report, and and actually cited the Obama administration conclusions. You see, I mean, you kind of get the feeling here things aren't going so good for President Obama. And this story's all over the place. And basically, this is one of the cornerstones of the Obama administration energy policy, is these biofuels, and they're growing all this corn to burn, which, a lot of people say that burning your food is not a real smart idea. Not to mention, talk about all the subsidies for these people that are involved in the biofuels industry. Oh, this is kind of interesting. Experts warn of America's coming Arab winter. Islam expert and author Robert Spencer explains how the radical Islamic groups that caused the Arab Spring in the Middle East are at work in America right now. Let's see if this video will actually work for us. Looks like it's going to post. Good, I think this will be good. We'll get a lot out of this. It's 11 minutes long.
1 year ago, Americans were shocked when Islamic terrorists launched another attack in America, setting off 2 bombs at the Boston Marathon, killing 3 and injuring more than 250 people.
That's today.
Says that attack was just the latest in Islamic Jihad on American soil, but it's not the last. Take a look.
When the Arab Spring revolutions began in Tunisia and Egypt in 2011, many in the West hailed the uprising as the beginning of a new era of democracy and pluralism in the Middle East. But that didn't happen. Instead, analysts say the region is less stable, more uncertain, and more violent than before. New Arab Spring has ushered in a new and aggressive global resurgence of Islamic Jihad. On the anniversary of the Boston Marathon bombing, author and Islam expert Robert Spencer releases his newest book, Arab Winter Comes to America, The Truth About the War We're In. Spencer says the same radical Islamic groups that caused the Arab Spring in the Middle East are at work in America right now, exposing Americans to even more threats of jihad. But he warns that America is shockingly unequipped to face this threat.
Well, author and Islamic expert Robert Spencer is here with us. He's written a book called The Arab Winter Comes to America. And it's a pleasure to welcome him back on the 700 Club. Glad to see you again. Thank you.
Very good to be here. Thank you.
You've got something really shocking in this book, is that the Obama administration told the FBI and our Homeland Security people to delete 1,000 pages of information naming the sources of Islamic terror. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. I used to be a trainer of FBI agents. I would train them about Islam and Jihad so that they would understand the motives and goals of our enemy. You can't defeat an enemy you don't understand. But on October 19th, 2011, the 57 Muslim organizations wrote to John Brennan, who was then the Homeland Security Advisor, and now he's the head of the CIA, demanding that all information about Islam and Jihad be scrubbed from counter-terror training, and all counter-terror trainers who spoke about Islam, like me, be fired. And what's happened in the time since then is that we got intelligence from Russia that said that Tamerlan Tsarnaev, the Boston bomber, was an Islamic jihadi. And the FBI didn't do anything.
Wait a minute. That came through to the FBI. They had clear information that this Tsarnaev was a jihadi?
Yes, they did. The Russians said he was a, quote, a follower of radical Islam who had tried to join underground groups. Now, a follower of radical Islam is only going to be trying to join jihad terror groups.
But the FBI did nothing?
They made a perfunctory investigation. They decided that he was not a terror threat, and they dropped any surveillance.
So the people died on their watch. They knew that this was going to happen. Did they know it was going to happen during the marathon?
They didn't know it was going to happen during the marathon, but they had every reason to be following the Tsarnaev brothers. And they were not doing so out of this politically correct, willful ignorance that makes them refuse to deal adequately with the jihad threat.
You mentioned a number of groups. The umbrella is called the Council on American Islamic Relations. CARE.
They were involved.
What influence do they have?
They have tremendous influence. The FBI actually will no longer work for them work with them because of their ties to Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. But they still have tremendous influence within the Obama administration.
That's CARE.
They were one of the 57 groups that demanded that all this material that spoke realistically about jihad would be scrubbed.
Do they have people sitting in the councils of the White House and what would be not the Oval Office but the executive office area?
They do. They have people who are in key positions in the Obama administration. There are people with Muslim Brotherhood ties, like Muhammad Ali Biari, who is on the Department of Homeland Security Advisory Council, and other people with Muslim Brotherhood ties that have great influence in the Obama administration. Arif Ali Khan, who's also in Homeland Security, and others who have been involved with these Muslim
How would
Brotherhood
the
groups.
Obama administration put people like that on insensitive intelligence gathering position?
Well, you know, political correctness rules the day, and we have to. Obama keeps insisting we're not at war with Islam. He has warmly favored the so-called Arab Spring, really the Arab winter, Islamic supremacist revolutions all around the Arab world, and he wants to show always that he has a good faith toward Islam and so on, and so he put these people in these influential positions.
Well, like that statement made the United Nations a couple of years ago about defaming the Prophet. What is the defamation? You have something in your book about what defamation is.
He said that the future must not belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam. And in Islamic law, slander is not lying about somebody. It's telling truths about someone that he does not want known. And what they don't want us to know right now, these Islamic groups in the United States like CARE, is the nature and magnitude of the jihad threat, which is exactly what Obama scrubbed from counterterror training.
So, a slander is saying truth about somebody that he doesn't want said.
That's right.
Now, how do you get that information? What's the definition? Where'd you get it?
That's from the Reliance of the Traveler, which is a manual of Islamic law that's published by Al-Azhar University in Cairo, which is the foremost institution in the Sunni Muslim world.
Do you think Obama knew what he was saying when he said slander?
I think somebody gave him that phrase, absolutely, and that the people who gave it to him knew what they were doing, even if he didn't.
If somebody tells the truth
God.
about Muhammad, tells everything about him, his writings out of the Quran, and he wouldn't like that being published, that's a slander?
That's right. And that's why people like me are charged with slandering the Prophet and slandering Islam, when what we do is tell the truth about what Islam teaches.
Well, I understand that we didn't write you into Great Britain.
That just shows the power of these Islamic supremacist groups. It was a smear campaign by leftist and Muslim groups saying this guy slanders Islam, says that Islam is violent. That's what the Home Office, this letter to me actually said, that you say that Islam has a doctrine of warfare against unbelievers, which is just a fact, and so we can't let you into the country.
It's in the
You
Quran.
said they have a doctrine of warfare. It's in the Quran.
Yes, of course it is.
I mean, cold letter. What about this deal at Brandeis University when Hershey Allen was denied?
I talked about this.
It's all part of the same thing, Pat. You know, that there's a concerted effort that I detail in the book to destroy anyone who speaks honestly about the jihad threat and about what Islam teaches about violence against unbelievers. Anybody who does that is targeted, smeared, defamed, with the ultimate intention of marginalizing them completely so that everyone will be afraid to speak about the jihad threat and it can advance unimpeded.
Exactly.
You're talking about it's not an Arab Spring, it's an Arab winter. How pervasive is that?
It's very pervasive. I mean, we've had several jihad plots and jihad massacres in the United States over the last few years, and they've all been covered up. I mean, most notably the Fort Hood jihad massacre that the Obama administration called workplace violence.
Are you serious? Wait a minute. Initially it was called workplace violence?
It still is in the official government report on it.
And he's saying, Akbar, he's shouting out Muslim slogans when he's shooting these people?
Yes, and they said it was workplace violence in the government report on it never once mentions Islam or jihad. That's the extent of the denial, and that kind of denial only ensures that there will be more attacks like that.
What do you think's going to happen? You said the winter comes to America. There's an Arab Spring. You look across to North Africa and especially Egypt. What's going on now?
Well, all it was the Arab Spring was an Islamic supremacist takeover where the Muslim Brotherhood and allied organizations like it moved to put Islamic states in power in all those countries. Now, the big thing that happened that they didn't expect was that the Muslim Brotherhood regime in Egypt was so unpopular that the Egyptian people toppled it from power after a year. And so that's a sign of hope. But the Islamic groups are still advancing all around the globe, and most of all in the United States, where our authorities are asleep at the wheel.
The Brotherhood sounds so benign, but it's not benign at all. Talk about it.
Well, the Muslim Brotherhood is a brotherhood among Muslims, but Islam teaches, for example, in the Quran, it says, Muhammad is the apostle of Allah. Those who follow him are merciful to one another, but ruthless to the unbelievers. That's chapter 48, verse 29. And so they might feel themselves a brotherhood, but it's a brotherhood that mandates warfare against and the oppression of non-Muslims.
What's the final prognosis for this nation in the Western world?
If we don't turn this around quickly, then there is going to be civil conflict on a massive scale, and the Islamization of large portions of Europe, and possibly even America itself.
We've been talking with France. It looks like it's very pervasive, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
All right, well, you know...
It's very pervasive in France. There are areas right now where you can't even go if you're a non-Muslim, unless you are ready to be physically attacked. And these no-go areas are not just in France, but in Sweden, in Belgium, and in even parts of London.
What can be done?
Well, what we have to do is assert our own laws. And these areas are self-governing enclaves that are essentially enforcing Islamic law in the middle of Western states. And Western authorities have to have the courage to go in there and say, there's going to be one law, not Islamic law, but one law in this land for all people. Instead, though, British authorities, even over the last few years, have been saying, well, we can have Islamic law in Britain for the Muslims, and we'll have a separate legal system for the rest of people. And that's already bearing bitter fruit.
Well, when you say this, you are castigated.
Yeah, that's all part of the same campaign. Everyone who speaks honestly about jihad terror will be defamed, smeared, mocked, ridiculed, with the intention of completely destroying and silencing us.
Unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, this book is rather important. Robert Spencer, Amazon, anything?
It's if you go to cbn.com, all the links are...
And again, the guy we were listening to, his name is Robert Spencer, and he wrote this book, The Arab Winter, and he's talking about how Islam wants to do to America what they've already done to Europe. Pretty serious stuff. And again, if you want to review this information again, you can go to my Facebook page, Daniel Gray. You can also get there by typing in Trailer Park Prophet. But you know, I've heard this guy before, and he seems very reliable, and all my reading suggests that that's exactly what Islam has in store for America. They want to see America become an Islamic state under Sharia law. Oh, I saw this all over the internet. Maybe you saw this too. And it was a gathering of Al-Qaeda. And this again came from CBN News, and it says, we must eliminate the bearer of the cross. America, a new video shows what looks like the largest gathering of Al-Qaeda terrorists in years. According to CNN, the footage shows the terror group's second in command, Nasser al-Harahi, nicknamed Al-Qaeda's Crown Prince, meeting with more than 100 fighters and commanders in Yemen. The terrorist has said he wants to attack the United States. Quote, we must eliminate the cross. I guess that's what they mean by eliminating America. Al-Hashi tells his followers in a video, the bearer of the cross is America. But at any rate, interesting to know Al-Qaeda is getting together, and it shows a picture here. I wonder if I should play the video. I think there's more than 100 people here, and believe me, they knew they were going to be on video. They all have their faces covered up. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I thought, God, only 100 Al-Qaeda leaders got together, but I don't know. Is that a big deal or not a big deal? I'm not really quite sure. I mean, Yemen, I don't know. I'm not going to get into it too much, but the story was out there. Oh, Zogby report card. Russia's winning and Obama has few options. This was from the Washington Examiner. Pollster John Zogby, he's been in the business a long time, roundly respected, reports in our weekly White House report card that the president has a real problem on his hands, a lack of options in dealing with issues like Russia, immigration, and Syria. And the Zogby report gives the Obama administration a C-, which means he probably deserves a D-, if not worse. And here again, you know, there seems to be a trend that the media is coming out against the Obama administration. God damn, I'm sorry, don't use profanity. Another report from CNN from Nigeria, why the abduction of 100 schoolgirls isn't shocking. As we have reported here on the Trailer Park Prophet Show, there is a genocide going on in Nigeria of Christians. Same thing is going on in Syria by the U.S.-backed Syrian freedom fighters. They've been committing genocide on Christians in Libya. No, alright, I got confused there for a moment. Syria, yeah, in Syria. There's a Christian genocide going on at the hands of the U.S.-backed freedom fighters. Plus, there's a Christian genocide going on in Egypt and Libya. Alright? It's going on all over, and the only people that are talking about it are President Putin and also Chancellor or Prime Minister of Great Britain. He's been talking about the Christian genocide that's been going on. But not our President Obama, who said, remember, at the United Nations, right after the attack on Benghazi, 2 weeks after the attack in Benghazi, on the anniversary of 9/11, on 2012, Barack Obama went to the United Nations and said that future must not belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam. And remember, he also said in that same speech 2 weeks after the 9/11 attack in Benghazi, where 4 Americans died, that attack in Benghazi on 9/11/2012 was the result of an anti-Muhammad video. He was saying the same damn lie 2 weeks later in front of the world. And believe me, that signified to the whole Muslim Middle East that this man, Barack Obama, doesn't have a backbone and is going to lay over and is going to be submissive to the advancement of Islam. God damn, it doesn't get any more clear than that. And maybe, let's see, where am I at on time? We got, we only have 6 minutes. Alright, that story I got from Alan West, and by the way, he did a story. If you want to go on my website and check it out, or go to Alan West's website, he did a story about 40 things that President Obama has said during his administration that were very favorable to Islam. So, you know, Alan West did that story. Let's see. Oh, illegal alien busted for voting in Nevada, not once but twice. And my friend Angela Bronson writes here, she says, oh, please, she's not the only one. She lives in Nevada. They get away with everything here. They buy houses, vote, drive without insurance. have multiple driver's licenses, seen that in traffic court, and have businesses. This is nothing new. This is an epidemic, but this is what the Democrats want. The lady won't be deported. She'll be voting again in 2014 because they'll release her. And that's exactly right. We're just doing a catch and release. Oh, I'm glad we got to this. Here is 9 suggestions that would make our country a better country. And this is called the Congressional Reform Act of 2012. And it says number 1, and these could either be laws, federal laws, or they could be additions to the U.S. Constitution. But number 1, no tenure, no pension for members of Congress. Number 1, no tenure, meaning that we want them term limited out. You know, you're able to serve so many terms and then that's it. And there should be a caveat in there that you cannot lobby after being an elected official. No tenure, no pension, for Christ's sakes. No health care, nothing. Number 2, a congressman / woman collects a salary while in office and receives no pay when they leave office. Number 3, Congress, past, present, and future, participates in Social Security. Exactly. All government employees should pay into Social Security. Number 4, all funds in the Congressional Retirement Fund move to the Social Security system immediately. And that should be for staff too. All future funds flow into the Social Security system and Congress participates with the American people. It may not be used for any other purpose. Amen. Congress, in my opinion, Congress should enact no law that doesn't treat them and their staffs the same. Number 5, Congress can purchase their own retirement plan just as all Americans do. So this thing's kind of, I don't know, kind of junky, but you get the general idea. Number 6, Congress will no longer vote themselves a pay raise. Congressional pay will rise by the lower of the CPI or 3%, so it's getting kind of wonky. Number 7, Congress loses their current healthcare system and participates in the same healthcare system as the American people. Amen. Number 8, Congress must equally abide by all laws they imposed on others. It's amazing that you'd actually need a law. Number 9, all contracts with past, present congressmen, women are void, effective 12/1/12. The American people did not make these contracts, and Congress, okay. And the other thing that they ought to do, which is more important than some of these clinky things, is that Congress shall have to have all their meetings in the open. No more closed door meetings. Also, Congress should have to do away with all what are called Christmas tree bills. Bills in Congress, like they are in Colorado, should be single subject bills so that you don't have all these ornaments of different subjects on the same bill. You know, it should be one subject, one bill, not Christmas tree bills. All right, looking at everybody, got to get out of here. Great show. Thanks again for being here. I hope I didn't miss you if you called in. We'll be back on Wednesday for Hump Day with the Prophet. I imagine there's going to be a lot to talk about. Go out and have yourself any kind of day you want.